made direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. The virtue of justice is defined as the constant and perpetual will to render unto others their due. So the ninth step is explicitly an act of justice. Nothing rectifies as much as justice and prudence. What do I mean by rectify? The virtues of temperance and fortitude do not rectify as I am using the words. These virtues create order between the spiritual faculties and the passions. But what I mean by rectify is something deeper. To rectify is to perfect or to set right. In order to recover, I must order my emotions, my intellect, and my will. I must also rectify the damage that I have done to my spiritual intellect and will. I have already considered the rectification of the intellect in the fourth step. Now I will consider the rectification of the will through acts of justice. Aristotle said that we can know something by examining its opposite. So we can know justice by examining injustice. And we can know the effects of just action on the soul by examining the effects of injustice. St. Augustine said, "Men are their wills." He also said, "As a man is, so he chooses." So the nature of the will is tied up in man's being in a more profound way than any other faculty. The will is a faculty of becoming. Through acts of the will, I become good or bad. There are no neutral acts. Either I am in conformity with the natural law or I am against it. Now, someone can be harmed at different levels. Someone can vandalize or steal my property. Someone can assault and harm my body. Deeper still, someone can harm my heart, say by cheating on me. But the most profound damage happens to the victimizer and not the victim. This is injustice. Through willing injustice, I damage myself more profoundly than anything that can be done to me. Through willing injustice through my fellow man, I become evil. Time heals all wounds, but not injustice. Injustice remains in the soul. The only way to heal injustice is through rectification, through acts of justice. The ninth step is about more than freeing one's conscience from freeing one's conscience. The ninth step heals the soul. Why is injustice so damaging? Justice must be preceded by right. Before I can render to someone their due, something must be due to them. They must have a right. Where do rights come from? This is a primordial idea and doesn't refer to anything prior. I have rights because I am a creature of God. I have God-given rights. The rights of man are founded on the absoluteness of God and are so intrinsic that when I violate them, I am assaulting God and I damage my being. This is where the schism between God and man becomes more pronounced through injustice. When I violate the virtues of temperance and fortitude, I simply block myself from God, but injustice is a cry of wrath against God himself. Because the rights of man are founded on human nature, then every act of injustice is preceded by a dehumanization. This is what happens in every genocide. For the alcoholic, this dehumanization happens as the result of egoism. When I steal from someone, something much more profound happens than the money lost. I will a relationship of inequality between us. I assault his essence as a man. Another way to understand injustice is that when we harm others for our own motives, we necessarily objectify them. to make them objects for our own purpose. But human beings are not means to an end, they are ends unto themselves. To treat a person as a means is to dehumanize them and is an assault against their nature. I say that through our will we become. How are we to understand this? The principal act of the will is to love. Whatever I will, I love. The proper effect of love is union between the lover and the beloved. So when I love something, I go out of myself and I effect union between myself and the object of my will. When I will evil, the species of the object becomes present in the faculty, causing a change. In other words, I become evil. We have defined human goodness in terms of the natural law. Goodness involves submission to the natural law, and evil acts contrary to the natural law. The first precept of the natural law is that man must act according to reason. So the goodness of man is found first in the virtue of prudence. But this is not enough, for a good man simply doesn't know what is right, but he does what is right. He manifests his goodness in action. So the goodness of man is found primarily in prudence, but the virtue of justice affects this goodness. So prudence alone is incomplete. Goodness is only fully realized through justice, but justice is dependent on prudence. Before one can act justly, he must be in touch with reality. He must use right reason. He must understand what is just and unjust. All acts of injustice presuppose a separation from reality. I can't emphasize this point enough. Man is a rational animal. Our reason is the core of our essence. Alcohol explicitly corrupts reason. The consequences of this are tremendous, and just as our life is founded on our reason, so if the alcoholic corrupts reason, he corrupts his entire life. And justice naturally proceeds from prudence. So if I corrupt my reason, this rationally proceeds to injustice. The relationship between prudence and justice can be understood by the following principle. Goodness is not contained in itself. Goodness is self-diffusive. It pours out itself. It expands and communicates itself to others. Goodness must manifest itself in external acts, or it is not truly good. When I approach someone I have harmed, I must first acknowledge the harm I did. This is prudence. And I must offer to make things right. This is justice. Justice demands reparation. Simply acknowledging a wrong and apologizing is not enough. Why? Because the purpose of the steps is to effect a psychic change. I interpret this to mean a change in the deepest part of myself. The deepest and most important part of my life is my moral life. I can only change my moral life through acts of the will. Acts of the will primarily manifest through actions. Therefore, I must take actions to effect a psychic change. As I have said, before I am a friend or brother, before I am a husband and father, I am a creature of God. The relationship between creature and creator is the fundamental relationship in our lives. All our relationships refer back to this one. I can only enter into genuine communion with others if I am a creature of God, made in His image and likeness, with God-granted dignity. All the complexity of human relations can be reduced to the most fundamental level as equality and inequality. The equality for persons is founded on man's relationship with God. Men are equal because they are creatures of God. So just as justice is a primordial virtue that is founded on the order of creation, so justice is a primordial virtue that is founded on the order of creation. How am I to understand the order of creation? It is simply this. God is our efficient and final cause. Ultimately, my origin and purpose, the explanation of my life, is found in God. When I act unjustly, I am assaulting the relationship between creature and creator. God is the purpose of our life. Yet when I treat others unjustly, I am assuming that this person exists for my sake. God is our efficient cause because we God is our efficient cause. Because of this we belong to God. When I reel a relationship of inequality between me and another, I am saying that this person belongs to me. In either case, I am assaulting the order of creation. But the ultimate disorder is what occurs in me. As I have said, this is why amends are needed to return order to creation. When I approach another individual and admit my wrong and admit and offer to right my wrong, I am affirming that this person is a creature of God, that they belong to God and not to me, that they have dignity and needs to be respected.